Don't settle for a logistics-only marriage. Are you ready to transform your marriage to have deeper closeness and connection? Learn more at intimacymastery.com.
From Naples, Florida, this is the One Extraordinary Marriage Show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the Hug Hotline at 858-876-5663 or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're talking about the power of creating a marriage bucket list and then actually making it happen.
And Annette White had this to say about bucket lists. She said, stop dreaming about your bucket list and start living it. And I love that because it really does talk about the action, and we're going to be very much diving into the action behind a bucket list in today's episode. But first, we start every episode with a hug, and a hug is an opportunity to celebrate the two of you, to celebrate where you're having ahas in your marriage, where you're investing yourselves and learning. And this hug came from a comment that was actually posted in Intimacy Mastery after a recent workshop on how life insurance protects your family's future. This couple said, the session last night, specifically around financial intimacy, was so informative. Our brains were overloaded, but we spent so much time afterwards in discussion with my husband breaking down my zillion questions. We're so grateful and thank you. And, you know, for those of you that maybe are just curious about Intimacy Mastery, you can always learn more and join today at intimacymastery.com and just use promo code podcast to try your first month for $1. You know, as Tony said at the top of this episode, we're talking about the bucket list. And, you know, in prepping for this episode, I always do episode notes. And it took me like 3 or 4 tries to actually start to get the notes flowing for this episode. Because you start thinking about an episode around bucket list and, you know, what is that typically in reference to? It goes back to this idea of the bucket list is a list of all the things that you want to do before you kick the bucket. There was a 2007 movie with Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman.
Wonderful movie. Talking
about all of this. I mean, just their personalities. But then we did... Yeah. As the hug reference, we did this financial intimacy workshop all around insurance and, you know, talking a lot about what happens and what the needs are after we've died. And so there was just kind of another theme of dying. And then, you know, in the last week or so, you know, Tony and I are at the gym and, you know, the TVs are on and I saw that Val Kilmer had passed and, you know, huge Top Gun fan. So Val Kilmer to me has always been Iceman. And I'm just like thinking about him being this like 60, like the fact that he died at 65. I'm like, no, he's like perpetually 20 in my head. But like all of these different things were happening. And I didn't want this episode around a bucket list to be the, oh my gosh, the end is near type of deal. But instead to go, okay, wait a minute. You know, like what if we focused instead on why wait to know that you're dying and to start living? Right. Mm-hmm. To be in this place of, well, when the end is near, then I'm going to create the bucket list. Or when we get to this point, then we're going to create the bucket list. But really to step into this place of, well, what are the adventures that we want to have? Why not start living? And as that quote said, actually start living our bucket list now. You know, because so often, and I think we've been guilty of this at times, well, we'll do something when the kids get older, right? We'll do something, you know, like that'll be something that'll be done in retirement. And I actually think about your parents.
Yeah.
Right? Your parents had these dreams to travel.
Mm-hmm. And then dad got sick and had to deal with 2 rounds of chemo and all the crap that comes with cancer. And, you know, a lot of those plans that they wanted to do and experience together in retirement never came to fruition. It was instead in hospital rooms and dealing with all the effects of, you know, chemo and the crap that comes with it.
Yeah. And, you know, so that's a real life example. And then I got sucked into the series. You have a 19-year-old daughter, it can be easy to get sucked into, you know, different series on Netflix. And she's got me watching the series This Is Us. And
what's that about?
So it was a series that went from 2016 to 2022 that follows this family.
Okay.
And all of it's beautifully done in terms of how the stories are woven from when the kids were little and when their parents first met all the way to, as I'm foreshadowing, starting to see that mom will die at the end of the series.
Got it.
I'm guessing just based on the scenes. But there are all these marriages and relationships also woven in throughout the story. And I'm watching this and having all of these thoughts that, like, what does it look like to still live while we're doing all the stuff, right? To step into this place of going, hey, what would be on our marriage bucket list? What are those things that like we're not going to wait until we're thinking about kicking the bucket to do, but we're actually going to step into the here and now. And I know like some of these answers, we're going to share these with you guys in just a second, but some of the answers are tied to certain seasons, like where you want to retire, right? Or there might be something that happens at a specific time. But one of the things I found interesting as Tony and I have thought about our bucket list over the years and whatnot is that sometimes you don't have to wait. You just have to do. And I think that's part of what we want to share with you guys in this episode and get you excited about like what if we started creating a bucket list now, wherever we are, if we're in our 20s and newly married, if we're in our 60s or 70s, and all along that go like, what do we want to do?
And I will say, when we were in our 20s, the bucket list stuff was, we got into hiking and backpacking and all that. And I remember just going, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be amazing if we could go to like Yosemite? And here's a kid, myself, who grew up in Southern California. Like, I grew up in Southern California. I never had gone to Yosemite as a young kid. My parents were not like, woo, let's go to Yosemite. Now, my dad did take us up to Delano, which is like in the valley. But
Definitely not Yosemite.
Nope. And we would go camping there because we would go dove hunting down there in the almond trees. But we never got to like Yosemite. So I remember as a young couple, it was like, let's get to Yosemite. Let's get to Sequoia. Let's get to Tahoe. It was like, these were places that we would drive to. And we would honestly, because we didn't have enough money, we would literally sleep in our car if we showed up somewhere before gates opened. Like on the side of the road in our old red Toyota Corolla. I
can still picture the night we were going into Yosemite and it was a full moon and we were in the car.
Yeah, going up Tioga Pass. We went up over into Tuolumne Meadows, which I then ended up through hiking through Tuolumne Meadows a few years, actually 2 years later, ended up through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. So, different seasons will bring different bucket lists. And there could be things that are on that bucket list in your 20s that you may not actually experience until your 40s or 50s. One of them for Elisa and I, and I'm just sharing, and then we can share some others, is we do want to take like a 2-week trip to Europe. My father, I'm going to talk about dad a lot here today, but my father immigrated from Italy at 13 years old. I've never been to Italy. Elisa has never been to Italy. We've never stepped foot on the continent of Europe. Our son, who's much younger than us, spent 9 weeks in Milan some years ago.
I was like, I've landed in airports in Europe, but never actually.
But we've never explored.
Yeah.
And that's been a bucket list for us. Now that we live in Florida, we're much closer.
Well,
we can shoot up to Atlanta, right on over. Let's go.
I was even thinking, about 3 years in, when we were doing all this hiking and exploring and stuff, one of the things that you said was that, someday you'd want to go to Peru. And we just, so it's kind of like, okay, we've slapped it on the bucket list, but we're young. We don't know how we're going to make this happen. And it was just there. And then when we celebrated our 20th and we kept trying to figure out like, what's the trip? And all of a sudden I remember sitting in my office and I just kind of leaned my head out the door and I'm like, hey, Tone, do you want to go to Peru? And he comes like sprinting into my office. Oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. What do you think of it? I'm like, well, we talked about it, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've kept it on. And
I was so surprised she remembered because we were looking at so many other places. And then she was like, Peru. And in the dream, that bucket list place item, like it just stirred in me. And I just remember just going like, yes, let's figure it out however we can do it. And I remember that, getting there, the train through the Andes, getting to, what was that town down there?
Aguascalientes?
Yes. And then the bus ride up to.
Oh, the bus ride.
The bus ride up the side of a mountain.
Oh my goodness, and then with switchbacks.
The very quick hike. And then there was Machu Picchu and we got to spend the day there. But that's a bucket list.
Yeah.
Some of these things may not happen, tomorrow because you put it on a sheet of paper, but that's okay because you're doing it together. Here are some that folks shared with us.
Yeah, we recently asked the question on Instagram stories, and some of the answers were to go on a week-long vacation, just the two of us. Yes.
I'd love to do. I'm going to say that is absolutely it. For me, I want 2 weeks. Nobody bother me. No children bother me. I'm out. Just Elisa and I.
Oh, goodness. No children bothering us. Okay.
I like this one, to retire in Savannah. I would assume Savannah, Georgia, which I think is just an awesome, hey, we've done life. We've raised children. We've done everything. And, hey, if you're from the north and you want to get out of that cold, Savannah is an amazing place to go. I love this one because it's one I think we should all have on our bucket list, to grow old together.
They actually shared they've been married 37 years and take each day.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing, to travel the U.S. in a van and explore all the states and then do it in Mexico. Somebody else said, attend a marriage retreat. Everybody wants to travel, right? Travel to Europe, travel to the Maldives, take my wife to Paris for an anniversary. And then this other one that came up too, get consistent with a hobby we share together. And, I know
a lot of recreational intimacy.
A lot of recreation. Well, and I think there's a reason for that. I think recreational intimacy really becomes the catalyst for so many other things. You as you start to dream, the emotional intimacy comes up.
Yeah.
When you are engaged in these recreational, the travel, the retire in Savannah, the exploring, go to a marriage retreat, all of those things, you're going to be talking about your financial intimacy. There are going to be opportunities for the physical intimacy, the touches. Are we holding hands as we're walking through the airport? Or are we, sitting side by side in an airplane? Are we, taking pictures together and wrapping our, all of these different things can happen. So you get your physical intimacy.
I find it interesting that you said sitting side by side in an airplane.
Lots of couples do. We're kind of the odd man out that doesn't generally.
Yes.
So
I just found it interesting that you said that because I can't remember. I think it was one of our flights as we were speaking in February,
Oklahoma.
March. Yeah. Oh, well,
we sat by each other.
Well, yeah, because there's only
two-seater.
two-seater.
Well, that's the only time I'll sit
Other
next
than
to
that, just so you guys know, Elisa and I, if you were to ever travel with us, we will always get the aisle seats. We'll be in the same row, but we both want the aisle seat. And more times than not, people think well, you can just move somewhere else. No, this is my aisle seat, and that's my wife right there. Just because I'm sitting solo right here, we're good.
We love each other enough to both take an aisle seat. It's a little Di Lorenzo quirk. Our kids feel the same way.
Yes.
So we will get, when the four of us travel together, it's 4 aisle seats. That's how we travel. If you don't like it,
we're a weird family in that sense. But thinking about your bucket list, the one thing I want to share before we get into some of the action that you can take here is think about it, but don't let life pass you by. Because it will. At a blink of an eye, when we do this, when we have that, when we get here, I've done that enough in my life. I've done it, and I think I've wasted opportunities because when may not happen. As we learned just last week, for those of you listening now, when we were on Intimacy Mastery and doing this whole thing around life insurance, our amazing guest speaker shared with us that couple had life insurance, and one day she pulled out of her home, took a left.
Little context: 37-year-old mother of a 2-year-old.
Yes.
The context matters.
Yes. Context matters.
Yeah.
Context matters. Thank you. 37-year-old mother of a 2-year-old takes a left and is in heaven with Jesus. So when I get it. I've been there, and yet life happens. So don't miss out on opportunities to get close and connected with your spouse by creating that bucket list, dreaming together, and then going and doing them.
Absolutely. And, we want to help the two of you actually get into this place where it's not just, oh, well, someday, or maybe this would be on our bucket list, but to actually create the actions around that. We're going to talk about that after this break. These days, it feels like the world and our lives are moving at hyperspeed. And sometimes being in the car can feel like one more place where you're rushing. The all-new Nissan Murano is an unapologetic refuge amidst the daily hustle and bustle. A place where you can take a beat to catch your breath and re-energize. Some of my favorite features are the massaging leather-appointed seats to help melt away the tension of a busy day, and the expansive panoramic moonroof that adds tons of natural light to the roomy cabin. Massage and moonroof, sign me up. Plus, the Bose premium sound system will help you escape into your favorite music. We've owned many Nissans over the years, and we love it when we fly into a new city for a speaking event and find that our rental car is going to be the Nissan Murano. We know we're going to have a great ride, and the car is going to be a place where we can chill and relax. Nissan's history has been one of innovation without reservation and a willingness to do what others don't dare to do. It's your turn to see what it's all about. To check out the all-new Nissan Murano, visit your local Nissan dealer or visit nissanusa.com.
Panoramic moonroof, Bose premium sound system, massaging leather appointed seats are optional features.
We've all set health goals. Lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, they often fade. That's where Prolon comes in. Its 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now they're upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. We're so excited to experience Prolon Next Gen and see results for ourselves. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering One Extraordinary Marriage Show listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/marriage. That's PROLONLIFE.com/marriage to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/marriage. We're back. And we're talking about not just creating that bucket list, but doing something about it. Getting to this place of being able to look at each other and go, what's our plan? Right? I don't want to just know what you're dreaming about. I want to know what you're going to do about your dreams. It's what we talk about every week on this show. It's what we talk about, in coaching when Tony and I are, whether Tony's coaching husbands or I'm coaching wives, it's what's the action? Right.
And those of you who just heard Elisa say that, me coaching husbands is new. I've had many of you husbands reach out to me saying, hey, Tony, I'd love to just be learning, getting wisdom, getting ideas and understanding around the 6 pillars of intimacy as a husband. I'm only coaching husbands, and what I'll do is I'll put a link here in our episode notes. So if you're interested, you can apply for coaching with me, and I will get your application, and we'll take it from there.
And I am still coaching couples, by the way. I know I just said wives, yes. but coming to this place, like the bucket list might be one of those things where you need a little help crafting this. Why? Because you've been so stuck in the day-to-day and just doing the day-to-day and being in the day-to-day that you've lost your ability to dream. Right? So before the two of you can create your marriage bucket list, you're going to need to spend a little time first in that individual space, in that place of self-reflection and going, you know what have I always wanted to try? Where have I dreamed of visiting? What do I want to learn? Right? Maybe, as Tony and I were even preparing for the 6 Pillars at Sea Marriage Getaway, we're on the Royal Caribbean app, and a few days before we're getting ready to leave, I'm like scrolling through to see what the activities are because it's like every day they add new stuff. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, Tone, there's a dance class. Now, this is Elisa stepping out of her comfort zone. So last week's episode, Tony has wanted to do dance classes forever. It's happening on the cruise ship. Guess who's taking a dance class with her husband?
Absolutely.
Super excited about it. But that's a bucket list thing for him, and we are crossing it off on the cruise, right?
And then we're going to take it back to Naples, and we're going to just crush our Latin dancing together.
Or some kind of dancing. I have no idea.
Latin dancing.
Oh, Latin. Okay.
Latin.
But getting into this place, right? Like, what is that self-reflection? What do you want to do? Right? What memories do you want to create? And then just write down your ideas. Don't filter them. Don't judge them. Like, just be you. And I don't know, if you can come up with 20 ideas, 100 ideas, 5 ideas, it doesn't matter. Start that flywheel going of creating ideas. And both of you independently create your own lists. Why? Because you can't have a marriage bucket list if you don't have an individual bucket list, because you need to be able to share and discover and talk through and get curious about what your spouse is suggesting or offering or thinking about, right? So you get into this place of curiosity. Hello, high emotional intimacy, right? And then you're asking questions. You're in this place of going, hey, I want to know more. You're writing down the things that you don't know. Good grief. We all have our phones with us. Just, open your notes memo or voice memo or whatever. Store that information. Some of you are going to be surprised. I'm just telling you, some of you are going to hear some things and you're like, I had no idea you wanted to do that. And then some of you are also going to start to see patterns or themes starting to go, Okay, well, you want to travel here and I want to travel here. Maybe we are taking that 2-week trip that Tony talked about and we're going to hit 2 countries instead of just one. Or maybe you want to learn this and I want to learn this. Well, what if we went on, because so many people said travel. What if we traveled here, we learned a language and we took a cooking class, right? And getting those categories, those themes together so you can start going, okay, how does this make sense for our marriage? You have just got like the squirreliest little bit. Look,
Well,
I'm like, what are you thinking?
As you are listening to this, when it initially drops, Elisa and I are on the 6 Pillars at Sea marriage getaway. This is our cruise that we're going on. We got a number of couples joining us. And Elisa and I, as we were preparing for it, one of the things I've wanted to do with Elisa is like kayak, tubing, something down a river, like something adventurous like this. And I found something in Jamaica. Now, again, if you're listening to this the first week that it's dropping, we probably haven't done it yet, or we're about to do it, or we just done it. But it's like one of those things, you don't think about it. It's like, it doesn't have to be so grand, like, oh my gosh, like we have to spend 2 weeks in Italy or it doesn't happen. Life needs to be lived. It needs to be experienced. And so sometimes I think we dream so big that, and I'm not against it. I'm all for like dreaming big. And yet sometimes those bucket list things can be the small things. Like she said, like just dancing together, taking dancing lessons. And I've wanted to do like a salsa or a Latin. I want to do a sexy type dance. I don't want to do ballroom dancing. I want to do something that's
no
sexy.
offense to any ballroom dancers, because
no,
we know you're here
I'm not.
in the
And you're awesome. I love it. I love what you do. But for me, I'm married to a Puerto Rican, and I'm like, why are you laughing?
Keep talking.
You are half Puerto Rican.
Totally. Just
okay.
Keep going.
I'm just saying, I'm like, I want to do some of that so we can like go rock and roll when we go see mom and dad down in Puerto Rico and like go hit it up.
I'm going to have to get over all of my control tendencies. So
oh, yes. This
is part of the reason why we don't take dance lessons, because I want to lead or not follow.
It's going to be an interesting one. I'm telling you, it's going to be interesting.
But here I am. I know that's on Tony's bucket list. Right. And so when I have an opportunity to make it happen, like that's the third step here. Right. You start with that self-reflection, then you get into this place of sharing and discovering and seeing the themes. And then you get into this place where, step 3 is, how do you prioritize and plan this? Mm-hmm. Right. How do you work together to start making that list happen today? Mm-hmm. Yes, there are going to be some things like our Peru trip we talked about when we were 3 years married, and it didn't happen until we were 20 years married. And it wasn't like we talked about it for 17 years.
We did it.
There was just a whole lot of life in there, and then an opportunity presented itself. This dance class on the cruise ship, not a whole lot of planning had to go into that for us, except that I threw it on our calendar when I saw it was available. Right. So you look at those types of things. You say, what can we do now? Or what can we, in the short term? Because here are life circumstances, right? You start going and going, like there are couples that are joining us on this cruise that for them, getting away for this week has been a bucket list. It's that whole like marriage retreat conference event type thing that they've had on their bucket list. It's also a week away without their kids. And they've had to spend a lot of time in preparation and planning to get all of the resources, all of the support, all of those logistics handled so that they can make it happen. Mm-hmm. And finally, I want to say, you know what? Don't just have a bucket list for when you retire. Don't. Because the reality is that you don't know. Mm-hmm. You don't know. And, I'll never forget the first time that Tony and I ever talked about making our marriage a priority at a marriage conference. We were out in Palm Springs. And I'll never forget when somebody said, well, what about the dishes and the laundry? And that's like asking the question when it comes to your bucket list, well, what about all your obligations? What about, the kids or your bills or work or all of that? And I'm not saying to be irresponsible. Please hear me. I'm not saying that at all. But what I told this wife who asked that question, and what I would say to each and every one of you is, those things will always be there, right? If you've got kids, I don't care how old they are, even if they come back to visit, you've got dishes and laundry. But what I told this wife is that I don't know how long I have with Tony. I don't know how many years we've been given. And I want to have the memories. I want to have the memories of our bucket list of our life together. of everything that we've done that wasn't just like because we had to, but it was also because we wanted to. And so this week, as you're thinking about your bucket list, don't just make it be a list of things that are like far off in the future. Put some things on there that are a little bit more short term, and then please go make them happen. Please find ways in your community, with your friends, whatever it might be, to cross some things off of that bucket list and have those memories tucked in your back pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's been fun chatting with you here today because, we can look back. We're going to celebrate 29 years of marriage. So we can look back, and we have been blessed, and many of you have too. And yet many of us know people who have gone way too soon. And so really, here at One Extraordinary Marriage, our mission is to impact one marriage. And if you're that marriage who's been sitting there a little stuck, last week, we said get out of your comfort zone. Maybe you've been that couple who's been a little stuck trying to figure out how to do something or want to do something. Maybe this is your chance and this is your week to go, what we can do is we can engage in our emotional intimacy, in the dreams, and write down a few items on that bucket list together. And then maybe the next step is maybe take one of those and get it on the calendar. And get it on the calendar so you guys can go enjoy that bucket list together. All right. You guys are awesome. We are truly blessed and honored to be and have you part of the One family. Truly, there doesn't go a day, I don't think, that Elisa and I don't have the opportunity to talk about you and what you're doing to make your marriage extraordinary. You guys encourage us, and I want to say you encourage many, many other couples and other people. So keep being extraordinary. Keep going out there. Keep stepping out in faith and knowing that making each other the priority, so many things come into play. So with that, thank you all. Have yourselves a fantastic week. We're going to be doing a recap of the marriage getaway next week, just to give you some highlights of what we did and what we experienced out there on the ship. So you guys have a great one. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. If you love this podcast, please leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening. Your review helps others find the show and know that it's the right fit for them and their marriage.